Oh, I hate you so much. Like, I do not feel bad that I'm essentially... Why are we live? So I don't.
Oh my god,
Dave.
Oh my god.
Alrighty, so welcome back to Inside Movies Galore. I am
Back to Dustin talks about his mom. Galore.
David Spring, and here in the room we have the Inside Movies Galore crew. Welcome back, everyone.
Hello.
Hello.
So last week we agreed to start watching mermaid films. So who wants to talk about the film that we are going to be discussing this week? Who wants to start?
I'm mad at you, Dave. Well, this week we watched the 80s movie Splash, which I'm pretty sure was Tom Hanks' earliest film, is my guess. Like, he might have done something else around the same time, but the way they talk about it in the extras, I think this was his first movie.
I believe Big was before this one.
No, it
couldn't have been.
1988.
It couldn't have been?
Yeah, because they kept talking about how they were taking a chance on Tom Hanks.
Probably early, because he did a bunch of like just crap comedies when he first started out.
I wasn't sure. I should have checked. Anyway, it's a romance movie about mermaids, and it's honestly pretty good, even though a lot of people used to like shit talk it that I can remember back in the day. Like,
remember back in the day.
It's just like a straightforward like Disney movie. Like, it essentially is a Disney movie.
My kid was watching it with me, and she asked if it was The Little Mermaid.
They thought about having.
It did predate Bachelor Party.
They thought about having a scene where she goes and meets a sea witch.
Mm-hmm.
Actually,
well,
the first
this movie predated the Little Mermaid film, but the Little Mermaid story came out obviously, long before.
My 11-year-old thought of that immediately.
Bosom Buddies probably is what inspired his thought there.
The first movie that
definitely wasn't Mazes and Monsters.
Yeah, Mazes and Monsters. The first movie that he had actually technically had a supporting role in, besides the 1980s He Knows You're Alone, which was his first starring role. So, Septim, why don't you tell me a little bit about when you first saw this film, and how does it do you think it holds up well?
Well, Kotobuki Jake was the one who showed me the film first, believe it or not. Okay. And it was, I don't know whether it was during our movie game that we were playing around or whatnot, but I remember seeing it because I saw bits and pieces growing up, because my father always had some sort of movie channel playing when I was early teens and so on. But I thought it was an entertaining movie. I had seen plenty of mermaid movies besides that. I think my first thought was going to be like the Cher movie, Mermaids, which it is not, thank goodness. It almost reminded me
of
that movie, a lot of other films. I'm glad. It's good to have appreciation for all sorts of films out there, definitely. But
that's one from my childhood that I remember really well.
I was happy to see it again.
The genre, the way that the film goes is something that they were doing a lot back in that time. I mean, they recycled that type of plot line a lot. The fish out of water story, well, literally this time. Like a Mannequin, good example of something else, where you have that little twist of something strange with that romance. They had like a rash of those during that time period. And it really reminded me of that type. Actually, Mannequin was the one that it reminded me of strongest.
Very popular trope.
because that was the one that I liked the most from that time period. I remember watching that constantly as a child.
Okay. And Kabuki Jake, why don't you tell me a little bit about the first time that you watched this film, and how does it hold up now to you?
I couldn't say the first time I saw it because this is one that I remember having seen in part or in whole way back when. Uh, I couldn't tell you the first time I actually watched it, but I know this was probably at least my third or fourth complete viewing. Although sitting down to watch it, I was surprised. I was like, I don't remember the opening scene being in sepia tones. I remembered it, but I didn't remember that. So it's definitely.
You're just remembering in sepia tones.
But I do remember that I always kind of liked it. Like I grew up, I saw a few of Tom Hanks' '80s comedies when I was younger, and I always kind of had a fondness for them, even if they weren't really front and center in my viewing. You know, Dragnet and Turner and Hooch and some of those kind of movies. You know,
Turner and Hooch was a good movie.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I always enjoyed those, and I feel like this one kind of does hold up, at least compared to my remembrance of it. Whether it holds up, I'm amazed to see that it was a nominee for Oscar for original screenplay. Whether it holds up on that level is harder to say, but especially since this was '84. Let's see. That would have been the year of Ghostbusters and Spinal Tap and Blood Simple and all. I'm going to have to double check what the nominees were that year, but but yeah, it's a fun movie. I like it.
Cool. Did you have you actually seen this movie before, or was this the first time watch?
Like other people have mentioned, I saw bits and pieces. I don't know if I ever saw it start to finish in the past, like because when I thought about it, it's like, oh yeah, I've seen that movie, but I don't really remember any of the details about it. So I do have to rewatch it for sure. And I can't remember. It was probably on TV when I was a kid or something like that, and that's why I remember certain things. But the copy I had wasn't the best viewing experience, so unfortunately I felt like I struggled through this one a little bit just watching it. Like it didn't hold my interest enough that through the bad copy I was watching that I was really like felt engaged with it. So it's just kind of for me fell flat this time around because I don't know, I just couldn't get into it. Like I don't know, that trope, like it's been mentioned, that trope has been done a lot, and I don't know. I just didn't connect with this one very much this time.
Really?
Yeah.
Well,
I think if I had watched a better copy of it, like clear, like I watched that YouTube copy where it's like super cut off and the sound was even messed up, and I'm like, this sucks. Like John Candy was the highlight for me. Like his one-liners were like, that's good. What I enjoyed the most.
His one-liners were pretty damn good. Like,
yeah.
In all honesty, I kind of forgot he was in the movie.
Hate it, but, I didn't hate it or anything. I just didn't blow my skirt up.
Red Raven. If there was this a first-time watch for you?
Yeah, this was the first time I watched it, and I thought it was all right. Okay. I like the relationship between, Tom Hanks and the mermaid. That was cool to see. It reminded me of like Creature of the Black Lagoon in a way. Like when he's in the water and, he's like obsessed with this mermaid and he sees it as a kid and he has to go back and find it again.
Okay.
Yeah, that was a cool touch where he just feels like there's something there that he needs to find. Like he doesn't know why he's there. He's just drawn to the place again. Like when his life starts going downhill.
Okay, this officially makes me sad. Okay. The nominees that year for original screenplay included this film, Beverly Hills Cop, Broadway Danny Rose, Places in the Heart. I've never even heard of El Norte. and no Blood Simple, Spinal Tap, or Ghostbusters.
Really?
That's sad.
Yeah.
What the fuck was happening in 1984?
Ghostbusters was a B movie at that point in time.
It was up for an Oscar for original song. They at least got that right.
Well, I don't know if original is the right word. At least somebody got that joke. That's good.
So, Justin, even though you told us a little bit about your
I think I know where we're going.
When was
the first time I saw this was I was a kid. I saw this on the Disney Channel back when they used to play not Disney original movies ad nauseum. Like back when I guess there weren't all that many Disney original movies. In the early to mid 90s, Disney Channel used to play all kinds of stuff.
They used to play a lot of family movies, even though they weren't, exactly put out by Disney.
Exactly.
Well,
yeah.
Wouldn't that eventually have become what is ABC Family, which is now something else now, I think?
It was kind of like that. It made me think of that. I remember somehow seeing Jaws 2 on there. I mean, it was edited to shit, but I remember Jaws 2 on what I think indeed was the Disney Channel. I remember the Disney cut to commercial and then going into Jaws 2. And it's like, wow, they put this on there. So Disney Channel used to be pretty rad, but I remember enjoying it the first time I saw it, but being kind of indifferent because it was more of a not my thing kind of movie. But it's something that whenever I saw it on TV back when I still had TV, it's like, oh, this is on. Okay, we can just leave this on. And I went out and what?
Touchstone Buena Vista. That is a Disney company.
Yeah, they. I went out and found the DVD today, so that I didn't have to watch that horrible YouTube copy. And it came with quite a bit of extras. Like there was a documentary, there was Tom Hanks audition tapes, and Daryl Hannah's too. This was directed by Ron Howard, which I did not know about before, and him and the other people involved did a commentary. Mm-hmm. So the story of it, this is actually the first Touchstone picture, because Disney wanted to release more movies, but with but not have a PG movie quite associated with their brand yet. I think the way they put it was Daryl Hannah's butt was too much to be associated with the Disney brand, so they actually founded Touchstone Pictures to release this movie. And supposedly it was supposed to be called Touchdown Pictures, but there was but somebody misunderstood somebody, and then the logo was out, and they were like, yeah, whatever. So it was a pretty fun time getting to learn about this. Apparently Tom Hanks was really, really nervous the whole time. He was trying to. They had Eugene Levy and John Candy, and he was trying to out-joke both of those guys. And Ron Howard actually had to take him aside at the first day, and go, it's okay, so this works with you as the straight man. Just let them handle the jokes, okay? And Tom Hanks was constantly terrified that he was going to be fired any day because he thought he was doing such a bad job. And it was sort of hilarious hearing all of that, especially if Ron Howard opposed. So when they were trying to get this movie made, basically everybody turned it down. And then when they were looking at stars, all the stars turned it down. And they'd remembered Tom Hanks from him doing a character on Happy Days. And so they were well, what about this guy? And it's I don't know, who's going to come see a movie with Tom Hanks? And I laughed really hard at that, but back then, he was new. So, I mean, it made sense. And he really stuck out to them because they repeatedly say he had perfect timing. And then when they were going back and editing, things that Tom Hanks was oh, this is a good idea. Oh, what about this? How about we try this? They said something he was right 9 times out of 10 on his instincts for jokes to do on set. So he basically blew them all away. It's wow, he's really great. Whereas this whole time, while he's just being brilliant and impressing them. He's like, "Oh, I'm gonna be fired any day now. It's over. I'm dead."
Well, he also improvised the Mr. Mango on my shoulder bit.
Speaking of you, Dane, when was the first time that you had seen this film?
I saw it, oh boy, back when I was like, I want to say 11 or 12, something like that. And I really liked it because one of my favorite Disney movies was always The Little Mermaid, and I like mermaids in general. I liked that this one explored another side of the mythos as far as like they're able to have legs and walk on land and just do some things that say the Little Mermaid would later not do, and they had her I like that she had a non-human name that shattered the glass, and I like that it was able to expand the scope a little bit more while preserving the standard mermaid things as far as like them obviously existing underwater and being beautiful and that sort of thing. But I also really like that something about her presence makes it okay for Tom Hanks as a kid and as an adult to be safe underwater, which I liked, and I like that they don't have to over-explain that either. Because to over-explain that, I think would have ruined the magic of that particular moment. And
exactly.
They just have good chemistry, and they have John Candy was such a great comedic talent. He will be missed, and it's probably one of my favorite Ron Howard movies. And like I'm not like a mega fan of Ron Howard as a director, even though he's made a lot of films that have been quite good, like this and Apollo 13, and I really love his version of The Grinch. And he's been at the forefront of a lot of great stuff. On the other hand, he's been at the forefront of some stuff that's just kind of generic. But
it's a kind term.
Something like this, I think, definitely speaks to his strengths, I think.
Well,
whenever he can keep it kind of fun and light, I think that he tends to do better. Because something like the Da Vinci Code was just kind of boring,
When I first saw this film myself, I was quite young myself, so I think I remember it being on the Disney Channel as well. When I first saw it, I believe that now that I've gone back and watched it, I did not remember that the beginning sequence was in like a black and white sepia type of copper tone to the film. So I did not remember that sequence in the beginning. So it was cool seeing it again, and I think, because when you watch things on TV, you often catch them either in the middle or like at the very beginning. I don't think I fully watched the whole thing through entirely, and this was my first time watching it entirely through myself. So I liked the relationship between Tom Hanks and Daryl Hannah, and what I kept thinking to myself was she actually had no problems getting naked for the role. Hey?
She's quite an underrated actress, just in general, kind of underestimated. And
she was the lead in Kill Bill. Like I thought I recognized her from somewhere, but I couldn't place where. And then when I looked, it was like, oh, that was her. Holy shit.
She was in that. She was in I think
Final Days of Planet Earth, Attack of the
Blade Runner, I think.
She was in Blade Runner. They mentioned that.
Yeah.
I thought she was in like Clan of the Cave Bear or something.
Yeah, she was.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she's very underestimated, and she was in a movie that I haven't seen yet, but I really want to see, which is a movie called Dancing at the Blue Iguana, it was a movie that had no written script. It just had a setting, and every single thing that happens was completely improvised. And I think that's a very interesting idea for a film, and I would be curious to see if it turned out well.
There's no actual iguana in that, is there?
No, nor is it blue. If there was an iguana in there, it would not be blue. But I just like that general conceit for a film is an interesting one. The only thing is that would require actors that can do improv well, because when you see actors that clearly cannot do improv well, then they're just dying out there. Like if you've ever seen the 40-Year-Old Virgin, like the extended cut with a lot of these scenes that are very clearly improvised and they just go nowhere. And with actors that clearly don't know how to do improv very well, and you're just like, move on, But that's my point, is that I feel like she's more underestimated and is able to take risks, and she's just not as appreciated for it for whatever reason.
Going to Eugene Levy's character, what did anyone think about his character, and how did you like him sporting that fro?
I liked how he had an arc. Like I'd always kind of seen him like with hair like that, so I didn't really notice anything different. But I kind of felt for his character, just from having like the scientific background. It's like this is what he's always wanted, like to prove, that I'm not nuts. See, there's something here, and he goes a little bit too far, and he at least has a redemption arc. It's like he realizes he did something wrong, and like helps to fix it. Like he gets hurt a lot, which he doesn't necessarily not deserve, but I don't know. I liked his character a lot. Like I thought his character was pretty cool.
Isn't it nice when antagonists can be likable, and B they're able to have redemption arcs for once, because those get kind of any one thing and usually that ends up with like comparing this to, say, like the villain from The Shape of Water, who was like pretty much an irredeemable character from the start, without a lot of depth to him. Granted, he was well portrayed within that setup, but it's just like he was just this irredeemable character from the very start, and so he dies, as opposed to a character who has some likable aspects to them, is still an antagonist, but is able to be redeemed. There's something to be said for that, I think.
I was waiting for someone to bring up The Shape of Water, because I was like, oh yeah, this has been done again, but maybe better.
Yeah, but you know what I mean, right? It's like
the first time
it's so easy for your antagonist to just be
for sure,
two-dimensional bad guy, and it's nice to see like it's kind of like the adult with the keys in E.T. Like he's essentially the antagonist in the film, even though he's not really a villain and he's not a bad guy at all.
It's a very PG way to have an antagonist in a movie.
It is, but it's just. But I like those antagonists, like the ones who aren't really bad guys. They're just, if anything, they can be good guys. It's just that their goals happen to be at.
Well, there's a lesson
odds.
in that, isn't there? There's some lesson to be learned in that whole story arc. So I think it's good, and probably why off product of Disney is like, yeah, we'll do this movie.
I know when her character bought that fountain as a present and stuck it in the middle of his room, I can imagine walking into something like that and being like, how could you put that in the middle of our bedroom?
Hey, they talked about that in the commentary. They said that they felt they could get away with it because they had established like so much realism in the movie so far, that they figured it was okay to go with like a couple of like, what the hell is that moments.
I have to say though, those apartment buildings must have had very, very sturdy floors.
Yeah, that
and very wide doorways.
Well, I mean, when I saw that scene, I was more focused on. I didn't really think about like how the hell did they get that in there? Like that only kind of occurred to me like after they brought it up in the commentary. Like I was more focused on like the sweetness of the moment. It's like, well, how did you pay for it? I traded my necklace. And it's like, aw.
My favorite scene in the whole movie was I have two favorite scenes. I like a favorite scene is when Tom Hanks is naked in the tank and he's like, I'm not a fish. It's just There's something about there's something whenever Tom Hanks like plays mad and exasperated, I always love it because like he's such a he has such a nice guy. He's one of those rare people who's able to be an overall nice and likable person. Well, in real life and on the screen, and then when he gets like mad and exasperated, you don't like hate him. You know, you find it kind of amusing.
My favorite part is
Well, that was a favorite part, and then my all time favorite part of the thing is when Madison's crying, watching the person die on TV, and he's like, "Oh well, you know he gets killed on this show, but then you know later on he'll get killed on another show." You know, 'cause
Yeah.
he's an actor. He's like, when you think about it, it's kind of funny, and then she laughs like that is so my style. That's so my sense of humor.
They wanted to add some more to that.
Yeah.
Did they have the line in there where he was like, "It's Bonanza"? Was that in the movie, or did
Yeah,
they
I
cut
think-
that?
The Gunsmoker or something.
Yeah, they said they wanted to try to think of like what's like the silliest thing anybody could be sad at, and then they just like named Bonanza. They said they initially wanted to do another one where she's watching the news and a plane crashes and she thinks it's fake, so she laughs.
Yeah, they talked about that on IMDb as well. I saw that little blurb there.
Yeah, probably good thing they scrapped that. That would have been
Yeah, I
Ooh,
think that
yeah.
one would have been a bit much even for back then, especially not today. But yeah, I think even back then that would have been much. But you know, but just like that scene is my favorite because that's so my kind of humor right there.
one of my favorite scenes to watch in this film is the part where he's standing at the door for the bride and groom that is about to, that is about to commence, and he's trying not to let the breakup of his previous relationship affect him. As people walk in, he just keeps getting more angrier as the thing goes along, and it's like he's going through the motions as so
That was great
my
too.
favorite moments.
That's what they had him on. That's what they had him do for his audition.
Wow.
Like, so it was so great. She left me, all right. Fuck you. Jeez.
And little tidbit on that, which I'm guessing if you saw the commentary, you probably saw that, or you all might have recognized the guy that John Candy's like, dude, that was the brother of the groom. That actually was Ron's brother, Clint. So that was kind of a fun little. Clint shows up in all the movies, and that was his role to get yelled at. But back real quick on the idea of the antagonist, though. Honestly, I thought Dr. Ross was a bigger antagonist than Eugene Levy's character. He was more of the irredeemable villain. The whole for science with moral concept. Nothing like that. And
the fact that if something like this were to happen, like in modern day, would the government and our scientists want to, put that type of a creature inside a test tube and want to study it exactly like it would in the film?
Not our current government. They don't like science.
Well, they'd probably want to do something to her. So
well, here's the. I mean, it's a fair question, just because although I mean, this is with what I'm about to say is with species that we already know of, but generally speaking, with birds, with fishes, with other kinds of animals, they catch them, tag them, and then just track their patterns, their migration patterns, and things like that. But again, that's with species that we actually know, as opposed to like if it was something like that we didn't already know existed, then who knows what would happen. But generally speaking, we tend to want to observe them in their natural habitats.
I did think it was a little bit. Did think it was a little bit more plausible that they would kind of just go full tilt and like just take her somewhere and like start like experimenting on her right away, because it would be like a once in a lifetime like opportunity.
Right.
Yeah.
So I could understand like their motivations, but it was pretty. They knew they were inhumane and they clearly did not care. So there's definitely a lack of ethics.
is
Well,
one
and
of
there's a lot of examples throughout ancient, recent, and current history of people lacking empathy towards other people and not caring about what they experiment on them or whatever.
which actually one of my favorite parts in the movie for that very reason, that lack of empathy, that lack of, you like to see those kind of get the nose thumbed at them or whatever. So I love the part where they go into the room and John Candy's sitting there with his feet in the tank and a fishing pole.
Come on in, the water's fine.
The other thing that I thought that was a little okay test theory wise was could you really turn water into salt water with just pouring salt into the water?
No.
Yeah, I kind of wondered about
But it
that
would not
too.
be safe for an aquatic organism. It would be poisonous.
Yeah, I thought that was a little stretching it.
Well,
you have to have special salt.
Well, they also got the fountain in that room.
Yeah,
well, they would have had to build the set around it.
I don't think normal kitchen salt would do the trick.
I like how he had the kitchen salt in a drawer.
I didn't even notice that.
It was probably just the hotel room at the time, and they had one of them dollar things of salt in there.
Nah, it's that was fun. And on issues of scientific issues, one thing that has always kind of bugged me, I like to watch, when I watch a movie, it doesn't have to be 100% on, but when there's something that's clearly off. The fact that all the underwater scenes were filmed in the Bahamas, just
I was going to say, that's definitely not New York, what they were swimming at the end.
with a New York Cape Cod undersea ecosystem. I found that very noticeable and distracting.
I had forgotten about that part. It's like, yeah, I didn't think there were sea turtles in. I had forgotten we were supposed to be in New York in Cape Cod in those underwater parts, and I don't know. The sea turtle was like really pretty, but I had a brief moment where I was like, wait, I don't know, I can't. Like it was like something was off, but I didn't notice. It's hard to explain.
There are sea turtles in New York.
Speaking of
no hard coral and no sea fans, and no very many snappers.
Speaking of
with the great
setting
barrier reef of New
York. Speaking of setting something in New York but not shooting it in New York, or at least not entirely, wouldn't it be cool if you could merge Splash, Madison there with Jason when he takes Manhattan?
I want to say no, although that does go back to.
Well, she could probably make his head blow up with her screech.
Well, that
was my favorite part of the movie when she blew up all the TVs.
Yeah.
Well, that reminds me of a thread that shows up in some of the Facebook group, some of the horror Facebook groups. Sometimes it's like the setup is it's like you could remake any movie with one character stays the same, but everyone else is a Muppet. What do you do? And Jason Goes to Manhattan with Jason being normal is like the one that you see the most often.
Yeah.
So Jason helped. I even heard like a pitch for the script too. It's like Jason has to help them, stop the corrupt real estate agent from bulldozing their theater.
That's funny.
And I can just like imagine they're in like a mine cart or whatever, like at an amusement park, like being chased or some shit.
Yeah, just imagine.
Because the Muppets took Manhattan before Jason did.
Exactly. It's like a mashup of those two movies.
Yeah.
It's just Muppets take Manhattan with Jason.
Just imagine Phantasm Tallman replaced by Jason.
Or you could do an Escape from New York mashup with Kurt Russell in the Tom Hanks role. I don't know.
I could see Kurt Russell doing a Terminator.
Oh, there was another just kind of like throwaway thing from Daryl Hannah's interviews from the DVD. Mm-hmm. He was like, "I have so many little girls named Madison like approach me."
Actually, they say on IMDb that the movie is credited with adding that name to the lexicon, that it was not used before this movie.
It's yeah, and the name Madison for Girls like skyrocketed with baby girls after the movie came out. Same with like the number of girls named Elsa that came out after Frozen. You know, it just skyrocketed.
Yeah.
Yeah, just naming children after movie characters skyrockets after someone sees something.
And those of us that were around first, sometimes we are offended by it. Damn you, Twilight fans.
All right, let's sparkle.
Fuck you, Twilight. Or something.
Yeah, I wasn't a fan of Twilight.
Well, you kind of had to be the demographic to enjoy it, from what I. Well, you weren't a teen girl. Like that's who those were for.
You weren't a fan of the books if you liked Twilight.
I've never seen any of those movies. I've never read any of the books, although I'd love to see the movies sometime just to laugh at them.
I will admit to having read all the books and seeing all the movies.
Yeah.
Actually, the books were not that bad. I actually had no problem with the books. I could see where she was, but really, I had read her previous book. I think it was the previous one, the Host. I think it was.
Okay.
Which I thought the movie came after that. I don't know if the book came before.
The book came before. The Host was really good. Twilight was okay, and it kind of played to those, fantasies and all that stuff of the demographic it was for. And of course, 50 Shades of Grey decided to compound that by 900. But the Host was incredible. Like I said, it showed that she had the ability to be an incredible author.
Alrighty.
That's not the Korean Host.
No.
Okay.
No, not the Korean Host.
that's the only Host I know about. So.
Yeah, I know that one too. And that one's on the bad movie list.
What, the Korean movie Host?
Yeah,
fucking crazy. That's a great movie.
I thought you were talking about the American Host, which is not the same thing.
Oh no, I was talking about the Korean monster movie Host. I was saying that's the only movie Host that I'm familiar with.
But...
Yeah, that's what I mean. Is that that one was? I have it in my collection. I haven't watched it yet, but
watch it. It's pretty good.
Yeah, but I knew that the 2013 Andrew Niccol.
You will not see the ending coming. It'll bum you out.
Yeah, I know that the Andrew Niccol film was not terribly well received, which is too. And I feel bad for Andrew Niccol because he was the guy who wrote the Truman Show, and
Right.
That's one of my favorite movies of all time. He also did Gattaca and Simone, Lord of War, things like that.
So, was there anything else that anyone else wanted to add? Red Raven, if there was any scene that you could really relate to from the film that you could add?
Not that I can think of, no. I think we covered it all.
When she was doing... Does anybody remember the thing with the lobster?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Turns out she is a really hardcore vegetarian at the time, and she was basically crying that she would have to bite into the lobster because they tried making fake lobsters and it just didn't work. So they got a normal lobster, and she just couldn't bite it knowing there was meat in it. So they tried stuffing it with vegetables, and it was kind of a mess, but they got it to work. So she said in the interview that it's 20-some years later, and I can't eat leeks without crying. They used leeks. I can't eat leeks without crying because it just makes me think of biting that lobster. And it's
Wait, what are leeks?
Leeks.
Okay.
It's
They're
like
like
an
a-
Onion-like things.
kind of thing.
Yeah, they're a vegetable, I thought.
Oh,
Yeah.
I bet you still what was it? You lay awake at night listening to the screaming of the lobsters.
Actually, though, if people want to get this film, it's not hard. Matter of fact, it is one of the cheaper DVDs on Amazon. $3.75. It's a cart topper,
Oh, jeez.
but still,
I should have just
you know,
bought it and watched it because I'm sad I had to watch that shitty copy on YouTube. It was horrible.
Yeah, sorry.
It
Yeah.
made me not like it.
I've been
Yeah,
Made
it
me not
was
care about
totally
it.
it was totally worth buying the DVD. Like, actually, when I get my chainsaw back, you can borrow the DVD.
Like a trade.
Sort of, yeah. Return the hostage.
I should just buy a plastic one. I've got that one that I have to redo, but I don't know how long that's going to take me.
I kind of want to see that one. I think I'm
Yeah, I
free.
forgot to take a picture.
I think I'm free Thursday. If you want to like bring that stuff over.
Thursday, I am working all day.
Okay. Well, I was gonna sit at home and like make chili, so it felt
Wow.
appropriate.
Alrighty. So
So I
unless
put on the
anyone else has-
costume. I have a problem. I admit it.
unless anyone else has anything else to add to the film, I think we shall wrap this up here.
okay.
It was a good movie. Just see it. Like it is sort of tough to track down aside from just buying that DVD though, because it wasn't on Amazon Prime. It wasn't on Hulu. I don't know if it's even on Netflix. Like I don't think it's on Netflix because
No.
my brother said he checked.
Yeah,
I
no,
checked all of them too.
and I wasn't sure that I'd be able to copy it in time for you guys with how long my week has been. So I apologize. In any case, starting with you, Septum. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Well, I am with a channel called Septum Sin versus the World. We work with physical media here on this channel, and that's what we focus on for the most part. Talk about movie and media releases. And we've been trying to work on a little bit of extra content. We had a very long video come out, but it was a 15 anime that we feel should have a complete or actually have an American release, which has been doing okay. And we hope to put out more wonderful videos, and people should check us out.
Cool. And Bookie Jake, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do, where you're from?
All right, I think I'm like Septum said, I guess on his channel, and yes, that anime video, I think it turned out pretty good, and I've been pleased it's gotten some views. I've already got ideas for several similar themed ones that I'd like to. I think we can hopefully work on in the near future. But and other than that, I've just done work. It's been busy times, work. Fun time for viewing and reading in the meantime. That's really about it lately.
Awesome. Alrighty. So, Katie, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do and where you're from?
Sure, I'm Katie Cadaver from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and I'm a body positive horror artist and alternative model. And you can find me on patreon.com/Katie Cadaver or Instagram at Third Eye Open. That's 3RDEYE0PEN. I'm also the makeup artist for the horror punk band Rat Bat Spider. You can actually catch them this Saturday, July 28th at Lucky Chance in West Dallas. They are playing with Primal Enemy and Cyanide Sun. And I believe the show is at like 9 p.m. And you can also listen to them on Bandcamp as well. And I am a dead girl for Dead Girl's Dark Coffin Classics horror TV show. You can watch episodes at vimeo.com/DDCC or check us out at the Wheaton All Night Flea Market at the DuPage County Fairgrounds on August 18th. We'll be there causing trouble all night. And I also am a performer and producer for Grindhouse Tees Burlesque Productions. You can find us at facebook.com Grindhouse Tees, and I'm going to be performing burlesque coming up Saturday, August 10th at Frank's Power Plant, doing a set with the Cream City Cabaret. So check me out there. And I'm also an editor for Movies Galore of Milwaukee, and check us out on Facebook.
Awesome. Red Raven, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
I'm Red Raven, and I'm from Lake Geneva, Wisconsin, and I book shows in the Milwaukee area, and I'm also a dead girl on Deadger's Dark Coffin Classics.
Awesome. Dustin, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Well, I collect horror. I live in Milwaukee, and I collect horror stuff. I show off what I can on my Instagram, DHR Hunter. Someone's trying to eat their mic again. Stab it. I'm also an editor for Inside Movies Galore and plan to get to work on some content fairly soon. I have an interview I've been working on since the dawn of time, and I'm going to buckle down and get that handled so that it's not on my mind anymore. I'm also working on negotiating an interview with someone that I've really wanted to talk to for a long time. I want to do a tie-in about movies and horror comics, and I found somebody who's interested, and we just need to set it up. So I'd like to do that as a different kind of interview. Like, I'd like to do it pre-recorded, so that we have some kind of control over like audio, and that we can,
like, someone who works in horror comics, or someone that's interested in them, or what?
If you've ever heard of the comic series Hack Slash, he created and wrote Hack Slash.
Cool.
Yeah, I don't want to name drop until it's like fully confirmed. But I met him at C2E2, and he really liked my costume. And when I finally managed to email him a few days ago, he actually did remember me, and he's interested in doing the interview.
Awesome.
So yeah, I'm excited, although kind of really nervous because it's like, oh, okay, how do we not look like a complete rube here? I'm going to write down my questions in advance. Like, I'm going to have it structured. It's not going to just be like, okay, we're live. What we're going to talk about again? Because it turns out he is also I only knew him for his horror writing. Turns out he's a very major like comics personality with DC now. Like, he writes like Batman stories. So it's like, oh wow, he still wants to talk to me. So don't want to screw it up. Probably should have kept that part off air.
Hey, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do and where you're from?
Well, I am Dan Kyle. I'm an independent based in Charlotte, North Carolina, and
Holy shit! Stop mumbling.
Me?
Oh yeah, now I can hear you. Yeah, go on.
Sorry. Yeah, I'm Dan Kyles. I am a independent filmmaker based out of Charlotte, North Carolina, and you can find me on Facebook and YouTube every which way, and in the midst of a lot of different projects right now. My girlfriend's Harley Quinn web series called Asylum Origins Harley has officially made its debut, so I can kind of talk about it now, not entirely, but just the fact that it is coming soon, which I directed the episodes, and that's different from the Harley Quinn fan film that I had written before I even knew her, which I will need to put that off until I can finish the series, and I was actually trying to expand into horror comic writing myself, and was starting to lay the groundwork for that. Just kind of like.
I have another friend who I'd like to interview too,
Cool.
that I'm also working on. So he might be more. I don't know. I don't want to, until I know these guys better, I don't want to like ask them for too much stuff. But he may be somebody that you could talk to about horror writing, because I met this other guy at Anime Milwaukee, and we talked about writing for quite a while. So I think he'd be good for you too.
That's cool. Yeah, I'd love to love to know anything more kind of about. I'm looking at the hack slash covers and
The other
everything.
person you might want to
Oh,
talk
it's so good. I love it.
to is Hart Fisher.
Oh yeah, I know Hart.
Yeah.
Since he did the
Well-
Dahmer comics.
Right. Yeah, because I'm seeing the first issue is published by Image, which they're big with creator-owned, comics that you're able to put out there, but the creator still owns the rights and everything. I think that's wonderful. That's what I would want to achieve. I just just want to make sure I'm doing it right. So just let me know, Dustin, how that goes, and
Yeah.
what kind of rapport you get.
Yeah, I'm really excited because Hack Slash was able to do some crossovers. So there's like Hack Slash versus Hatchet. So I want to mainly focus on that because I love Adam Green. But they also did a crossover with like Herbert West appears from Reanimator. Chucky is in one of the specials as well. So that they get like a well established like horror villain for the annual specials. So it's gonna be fun. So plus a lot of the horror villains in Hack Slash are they have clear inspiration taken from like other major characters, but they have like their own like unique twist on them. Like Sammy Kerr is basically a recurring character. He's a mediocre rocker called 6'6", and he's maybe my favorite just because of his stupid name. Like,
Nice.
whenever he shows like he's dangerous, but he's clearly a buffoon who's in over his head.
Alrighty. So now ultimately everyone like and subscribe. Definitely check out some more discussions down the road. And now everyone say good night.
Good night.
Hey.
Good night.